Use this, it's totally broken, especially when you have Surge with his best weapon. Just use it, use it, use it. Don't waste this element. Hey guys, it's me, Tantacles, here with the Chrono Cross Blue Element tier list. I'm gonna rank them all and let you know what the best ones are. Please do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment letting me know that I'm wrong. I love fighting about Chrono Cross elements. There is nothing better. Let's get started. As usual, we're gonna start with our attack elements. Aqua Beam is our level 1 attack element, hits a single enemy, and that's gonna go into the B tier because at the time that you get Aqua Beam, you generally have pretty good access to Ice Lance, which is gonna go into the A tier. Neither of these is particularly powerful, but they have good availability at the beginning of the game. You can buy them from like the second shop in the game. I think you can get Aqua Beam just a little bit earlier, but honestly, you don't want Aqua Beam at the beginning of the game that much because a lot of the enemies are blue. So actually, I'm gonna move Aqua Beam down to the C tier. Sorry, boo. Next up is Aqua Ball, and that's also gonna go into the C tier because when Aqua Ball becomes available, you already have access to Ice Blast. And Ice Blast is one of my top 3 attack elements in this game. It has the most useful status effect, Freeze, and granted Freeze doesn't last very long, but it completely incapacitates the enemy, and it can even incapacitate some bosses, which is pretty effing cool if you ask me. I'm not used to any kind of status effects working on any boss in most of the RPGs I play, so this is pretty cool. Okay, Persona, Shin Megami Tensei, sometimes status effects work on bosses, but in most of Squaresoft's games, they don't work. Next up is Deluge, the level 5 attack spell, and that's going to go into the A tier below Ice Blast. Now I actually have to test the power level of Deluge. It attacks all enemies, and so I'm not sure if it's stronger or weaker power-wise to Ice Blast, but the fact that Ice Blast does freeze is very useful, so I'm going to leave it below Ice Blast for now, and I will reevaluate at a later time. Because this is the tier list of now, not later. Deluge Trap, similarly, is going to go into the S tier, and there are a bunch of enemies that use this. Iceberg is your level 6 attack element, and like most of them, it's going to go into the S tier. Very powerful, and the trap is also going to go into the S tier. The only limitation is that only blue innate characters can equip it, but that's okay because there are some amazing magic users in this game that are blue innate. Irene's and Lena are the main ones. Next up is Frog Prince, and you get this at an extremely opportune time. However, it's very difficult in some of the battles to change the field to all blue, and it's going to go directly into the A tier. And its trap is going to go into the D tier because they literally give you Frog Prince for free. It's not hard to get, and you do not need to trap this element. There are very few enemies that can actually use this element. This is literally the only useless summon trap besides Unicorn, but we're not even going to talk about that. See my white element tier list for more details. And I would not bother buying any Frog Prince traps. So few enemies use Frog Prince that it is not worth your time, and you already get one for free. You don't need a second one. There are going to be very few battles where you'd even be able to use the Frog Prince summon twice. You'd have to turn the entire field blue, cast it, and then build your elements all the way up to level 5 at very minimum to use it again, but because it can be junctioned down to level 5. Don't bother. Blue Whale is going to go into the C tier. Frog Prince is more than adequate as a damage dealer, and you get plenty of blue materials from it, so you just don't need Blue Whale that much. It does do more damage, but it can only be allocated to level 8. Granted, you have Bluefield available to turn the whole field blue, but just use Frog Prince. It's really not worth your time to use Blue Whale. Although I don't want to shade whales, I love whales, but Blue Whale in this game, not that great. Next up we have our recovery spells, and Cure is going to go into the B tier. You get it at a good time. Unfortunately, it's blue innate at a time when a lot of the enemies are also blue innate, so meh, it's just not that great a spell when you get it. And then later you get Cure Plus, which is actually a pretty great single target healing spell that's going to go into the A tier. It does more healing, it can be allocated to level 1 just like Cure, and I'll be doing a video a little bit later that shows what happens when you allocate spells down to the same level as another spell that does the same thing. And I'm excited to share the results with you. Next up is Cure All, and this is going to go in the very top of the A tier. Oh my god, stop. Okay. This is a fantastic healing spell. The limitation of it, of course, is that it can only be equipped to blue innate characters. I'm not sure why they did this, especially with Heal All and the green element existing and being equipable on anyone, as well as Recover All existing and being a fantastic healing spell. It's a great spell, it's just not S tier for me. That restriction is stupid. It's arguably the best healing spell in the game, but why restrict it? I don't get it. It's a healing spell, it's not like a level 6 attack element or something. Medicine is next. It's a level 2 consumable element that heals all blue status effects. A little bit more useful than Ointment, so it's going to go into the bottom of the C tier. Really, its main use is just to change the field element, and it can do that 5 times because it's consumable. It would be more useful if it could be allocated to level 1, but it can't, so it goes in the C tier. There are also spells that do its effect just fine, like Panacea, which will heal all status effects, not just blue ones. And Purify, of course, is a non-consumable element that can be allocated to level 1, so really I wouldn't recommend using the medicine spell. Plenty of better ways to use your turns if you want to change the field to blue, and there's also the Bluefield element anyway, which just changes it all to blue, so don't bother. Speaking of that, next up is Bluefield, which is an S tier element. It changes the whole field to blue, increasing blue element damage, decreasing red element damage, decreasing attack power of red element enemies, increasing the attack power of your blue element allies, and that is great. It's a fantastic element because there are so many great blue characters in the game, and because Frog Prince is given to you for free. It also increases your healing, of course, although you're probably not going to change the field just so you can heal better. But this is great. Use it. Go for it. Love it. Turn Blue is next, and this is going to go into the B tier. The problem is with so many great blue characters in this game, there's a good chance you're going to have a blue character in your party if you're playing optimally, and so therefore turn blue is a lot less useful than an element like turn red, because it's going to make your blue characters do less damage as opposed to turn red, which will make your blue characters do more damage. Still a good element and can be used if you use red characters a lot. I just think that turn red is a much more useful element. Next up is anti-red, and that's going to go into the C tier, like all of the other anti-elements. It's a level 4 element that can only be equipped to blue innate characters and prevents the casting of red elements by one enemy. However, it often doesn't work on bosses, and it's temporary. You're usually better off just trying to do more damage. I see this as generally a waste of a turn if you're going to cast it. Next up is Nimble, which is slightly useful, I guess. It increases your physical evade percentage, which could be good, except generally you don't need to avoid physical attacks, you need to avoid magical attacks. So I'm going to put this into the bottom of the C tier. I just don't think it's helpful at all. Nimble, on the other hand, is even more useless, unfortunately. It's going to go into the D tier. Generally, you're going to be able to hit the enemies reasonably easily, at least with a level 1 attack, and then build up from there. And if you miss a couple of attacks, it's just not worth casting Nimble, which also might miss, to maybe do a little bit more damage or have a slightly better chance of hitting your enemy. Don't bother. Now, Vagora is where it's at. Vagora is an S tier element. Vagora maintains your stamina bar, so as long as you have 3 stamina, you can continuously do level 3 attacks, and the enemy can't really do much about it. Now, I have to say, I've only gotten this element once in my entire life because you get it from fighting a specific boss, and you can fight 1 out of 3 of the bosses in that area. Don't want to give spoilers, but it's kind of stupid. But if you can get this, you should have it equipped to a blue character all the time. There are great blue characters in the game, and you're probably going to end up using one. Use this. It's totally broken, especially when you have Surge with his best weapon. Just use it. Use it. Use it. Don't waste this element. And with that, the tier list is done, so please go watch my red element tier list next. Like the video, leave a comment letting me know what your thoughts are. Let's have a fight about blue elements. Bye-bye. See you in the next one.